Nobody tells you this when you start trading. They tell you about indicators, they tell you about strategies, they tell you about financial freedom. What they don't tell you is that trading is one of the loneliest paths you can choose, and not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, slow, psychological way that creeps up on you. Because the moment you say, I'm learning to trade, people don't hear ambition. They hear uncertainty. They hear, oh, so you don't make money yet. And instantly, whether they say it out loud or not, you drop a few levels in their mental ranking of you. Not because they're evil, because results are the only language people understand. And in trading, results come last. In most careers, effort is visible. You go to work, you get promoted, you get feedback, you get reassurance that you're on the right path. Trading gives you none of that. You can spend 6 hours studying charts, and from the outside, it looks like you watch YouTube all day. You can improve massively and still make $0 that week. You can do everything right and still lose. Try explaining that to someone who's never traded. You can't. So you stop trying. This is where the loneliness really starts. You're excited about learning something difficult. You're obsessed with improving. You're thinking in probabilities, risk, execution. And the people around you, they're just wondering when you're going to do something real. They don't see the reps. They don't see the discipline. They don't see the internal battles. They see only the scoreboard. And early on, the scoreboard is ugly. So you start carrying a quiet weight. You wake up early. You study alone. You trade alone. You lose alone. You question yourself alone. And when you finally have a good day, you don't even talk about it. Because you know how it sounds. Oh, you made money today? What about tomorrow? What about next month? What about when it stops working? So instead of celebrating, you just keep going, silently. This is the part nobody prepares you for. Not the losses, not the drawdowns, the lack of recognition. The fact that for a long time you're doing something incredibly hard with no validation, no encouragement, and no guarantee it will work. And that's why most people don't fail at trading because of strategy. They fail because they can't handle being misunderstood for that long. The loneliness isn't a bug, it's a filter. Because if you need constant reassurance, if you need people to understand you, if you need approval to keep going, trading will break you. This path selects for people who can move forward without applause. And that's where this journey really begins. Not when you place your first trade, not when you pass a challenge, not when you make money, but when you accept the simple fact, no one is coming to validate you. And if you can survive that, you're already ahead of most people. At some point in this journey, you realize something uncomfortable. You're not just trading the markets anymore. You're trading other people's opinions. Because when the loneliness kicks in, you start looking for proof that you're not crazy. You want someone to say, yeah, this makes sense. You're on the right track. Keep going. So what do? You start searching. You bounce from Discord to Discord, from YouTuber to YouTuber, from strategy to strategy. Not because your system is bad, but because you're hoping one of them will finally say the thing that quiets the doubts in your head. You're not even looking for an edge anymore. You're looking for permission. Permission to believe this is worth it. Permission to believe you are worth it. You watch someone profitable explain their setup. They sound confident, calm, certain, and your brain goes, maybe they figured out something I haven't. So you tweak your system just a little. Then you watch another trader, different style, different rules, still profitable. Now your brain starts spiraling. Wait, if they're profitable that way, what am I missing? And you tweak again and again and again. Eventually, you're not even trading anymore. You're assembling a Frankenstein strategy from other people's confidence. This is where the loneliness turns to exhaustion. Because now you're not just alone, you're fragmented. You don't trust your plan, you don't trust your reads, and you don't trust yourself. Every trade feels like a test you didn't study for. And the worst part, no amount of external validation fixes that. You could get 100 people telling you, yeah, bro, it looks good. And the moment the trade goes against you, you're back to questioning everything. Validation doesn't remove doubt, it delays it. The doubt always comes back because it's not about the strategy, it's about the ownership. As long as your confidence is borrowed from somebody else, it disappears the moment things get hard. And trading is always hard eventually. That's why the journey feels so lonely. Because at first you think the solution is finding the right people, but slowly, painfully, you realize no one can do this for you. They can teach, they can inspire, they can show possibilities, but they cannot sit with your losses. They can't execute your plan. They can't take responsibility for your decisions. That part is yours, all of it. And once that clicks, something shifts. You stop asking, who can help me? You start asking, what do I believe in enough to stick with when it hurts? That's when trading stops being about fitting in and starts becoming you versus you. At some point, the noise fades. Not because the internet shuts up, but because you finally stop listening. This is the moment most traders don't talk about because it's quiet. There's no hype music. There's no aha moment. You're just sitting there realizing, oh, this whole thing has been me the entire time. The market didn't betray you. Your strategy didn't suddenly stop working. No one sabotaged your progress. You just reached the phase where excuses stop working, and that's terrifying. Because when it's you versus you, there's nowhere to hide. No Discord to blame, no guru to point at, no new strategy to distract you. Just execution, discipline, and consistency. Boring words, until you realize they decide everything. This is where loneliness actually becomes an advantage. Because now silence becomes feedback. Start noticing patterns, not in price, but in yourself. You notice things like, you overtrade when you're tired. You force trades when you feel behind. You hesitate after a win. You revenge trade after a loss. Same chart, same setup, different behavior. That's when it clicks. Your biggest edge isn't the market, it's self-awareness. Most traders quit right here, not because they can't make money, but because they don't like what the mirror shows them. Because trading exposes your impatience, your ego, your need for control, your fear of being wrong, and there's no way around that. You either work through it or you keep restarting. New account, new strategy, same problems, different wallpaper. This is also where comparison dies. You stop caring how fast someone else is progressing. You stop counting how many months it took them. You stop measuring yourself against the highlight reels because you finally understand something powerful. Your pace is your pace, and rushing it only delays it. You start doing quieter things. You journal honestly. You review trades without emotion. You trade less but better. You pass on setups and feel proud instead of bored. Not because you're perfect, but because you're present. And presence beats talent every single time in this game. This is the phase where trading stops feeling lonely, and it starts feeling personal. Not dramatic, not emotional, personal. Like training for something no one else can train you for. That's when confidence starts coming from the outside. It starts coming from repetition, from proof, from showing up when no one's watching. You don't need a crowd for that. You don't need validation. You just need to keep the promise you made yourself, even on the days you don't feel like it, especially on those days. And all that searching you did, all those late nights bouncing between strategies, mentors, discords, indicators, market theories, that wasn't wasted time, but it wasn't the answer either. Because the answer was never out there, it was always you. At some point you wake up and you realize something uncomfortable. Nobody's coming to save you. Not the market, not a guru, not a new strategy with better marketing. And weirdly, that's freeing. Because the moment you accept that, you stop waiting. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for confidence. You stop waiting for someone to tell you that you're ready. You just do the work. And that's where the journey changes. You stop asking, is this the best strategy? And start asking, can I execute this consistently? You stop asking what others are doing. You start asking, what am I doing wrong? And that shift alone puts you ahead of most people. The loneliness doesn't disappear, but it transforms. It stops feeling like isolation and starts feeling like ownership. Because now your wins are yours, your losses are yours, your growth is yours. No one can take that away. No one can give it to you either. You realize why advice stopped helping? Not because advice is useless, but because you already know what to do. You know when you're forcing trades. You know when you're breaking your rules. You know when you're lying to yourself. But you just don't want to admit it. And once you do, you stop needing motivation. You don't need hype. You don't need speeches. You don't need to feel inspired. You just need structure. You trade your plan, you review your execution, and you improve one thing at a time, quietly and relentlessly. This is where traders are made. Not in big wins, not in viral clips, not in perfect equity curves, but in private discipline. And showing up when nobody's clapping, and fixing mistakes no one sees, and staying consistent when the progress feels slow. The moment you stop needing validation is usually when the results start showing up, because you're no longer trading to prove something. You're trading to build something. That's the real journey. Not lonely, focused, not misunderstood, self-directed. Not you versus the world, just you versus who you were yesterday. And that fight is worth showing up for. The trading journey doesn't end with applause, and it doesn't end with people suddenly getting it. And it definitely doesn't end with everyone who doubted you apologizing. Most of the time, nobody notices, and that's kind of the point. You don't wake up one day and feel like you've made it. What actually happens is way more boring and way more powerful. You just stop fighting yourself. You stop chasing every new idea. You stop needing reassurance. You stop explaining your plan to people who don't understand charts, risk, or patience. You just execute quietly. The loneliness you felt early on, that was the price of admission. Because this game forces you to confront parts of yourself that most people never do. Impatience, ego, fear, the need to be right, the need to be seen. Trading strips all of that bare. And if you survive that phase, you don't come out louder, you come out calmer. You realize something important. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You don't need permission. You don't need to win every trade. You just need to follow your process even when nobody's watching, especially when nobody's watching. That's why this journey feels lonely. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because personal growth is a solo sport. Nobody can sit through drawdowns for you. Nobody can journal your mistakes. Nobody can control your emotions when price moves against you. That part is all yours. It always was. And one day, without fireworks, without announcements, you look back and realize you don't trade the same anymore. You don't react the same. You don't chase the same things. You're not perfect, but you're solid. And in trading, that's everything. So if you're in that phase right now, feeling misunderstood, isolated, doubting yourself, good. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Just don't quit. Because the only person who can finish this journey is the same person who started it. You.